If this goes on, don't panic. Bringing hope to the world through speculative fiction.
Hello and welcome to If This Goes On, Don't Panic. Today we have author Peng Shepherd. Kat, how are things going with you?
Things are pretty good for the most part. I brought a cat in from my porch. Actually, I took him into the shelter to get neutered, and it turns out he has feline leukemia. So I am trying to find a new home for him. So if anybody listening wants a great little cat, you should contact me. I know this won't go out for a while, but I think it's going to take me a while to find him a home. But if you are interested in Barry, please drop me a line.
Yeah.
So that's how it's going.
Take care of those wonderful little kitty cats.
No.
Did I tell you? I think I told you that I have a new cat too, right?
Oh, no.
No. Oh, yeah. We have a fourth cat now.
Oh my God, Alan, that's kind of like crazy cat person when you go to fourth cats. So what's this one's name?
Well, first, let me defend myself by saying my kids talked me into it. Okay.
Fair enough.
His name is Dr. Pipsqueak Thelonious Bailey.
That is a lovely name.
It is.
Is that a name voted on by a committee of your children, or did you pick it?
Oh, no. This was by authoritarian fiat here. I was like, all right, you all want a fourth cat? I'm going to name this cat whatever I want.
Fair enough.
He already came with the name Pipsqueak, though. We got him from a shelter, and
yeah.
He's a very large gentleman. Very large. 21 pounds of...
Yeah, it's so good to get cats from the shelter because there are so many of them out there right now. They're overwhelmed.
Yes, and this poor little guy was super terrified. I have never seen a cat that afraid in my life.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
His sad little face. Me and my youngest son went out and picked him out.
Oh, God.
This was his idea, So, and we were both just taken in by his sad eyes. So, yeah.
Of course you were.
4 cats now. God help us. Another thing I want to mention real quick. This is the 50th interview episode that we've done.
Oh, holy cow.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Right?
Man, we've been doing it for what, like 3 years now? 4 years? Like we started
4+.
4+. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for keeping it going, Alan, because you were the glue that holds this podcast together.
No problem. I got to do something with myself. It's either going to be this or some other thing, so I might as well. And do this. I love doing it. I love getting books. I love talking to the authors. It's fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of books, I wanted to ask you one more question before we get started here. Have you heard of Allstora? That's spelled Allstora.
No. Should I have?
Okay. I don't know. So I kind of want to give this place a shout out because they look cool, but also I don't know anything about them. I saw them. God, where did I see them? I think maybe I saw them on social media or something, but I went to their website and this is from their website, so take it with a grain of salt, but I hope it's true.
All right.
It says, founded by queer and Black authors, Allstora is fighting to put money back into authors' pockets.
Always good.
They pay enrolled authors $100, not $100, 100% of profits from individual book sales. The median full-time author makes $10,000 in book sales below the poverty line. Allstora's goal is to double this number by 2027. Revenue from memberships and book club subscriptions allow us to keep the lights on and pay our staff a livable wage. So that's like first thing that you find on there. And I went and looked, and it costs a person like $5 to $5 a month to subscribe to them. And then you can get books for like, I don't know, it's like around 25%-ish off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. One other thing they did say is like they're trying to fight back against Amazon because Amazon's just, the worst.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I don't know. I just hope it's a cool, legit thing.
I don't know. You should check it with Cory Doctorow. Remember, he
Ooh.
schooled us in everything that was all this. I'm sure he would have an opinion.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. Maybe I should email him about that. Yeah. Story. I'm going to note this and hopefully I remember to do it. But I know, I thought you would be interested. I thought our listeners would be interested. So if anybody out there knows what's going on, shoot us an email. Our address is itgo.don'tpanic@gmail.com. So if you know anything about this, hit us up. I'm interested in what's going on with this thing. And if it's legit, I hope it helps out a lot of authors. So
awesome.
Okay. Well, I guess with that, are you ready to bring on Peng Shepherd?
I am. Which version of Peng are we bringing on now?
Ooh, that is a good question. The all-knowing God version, I think.
There you go.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
All right. We'll be right back with Peng Shepherd. Okay, and we are back. Today we have Peng Shepherd. Peng Shepherd was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, and has lived in Beijing, Kuala Lumpur, London, New York, and Mexico City. Her second novel, The Cartographers, became a national bestseller. It was named a Best Book of 2022 by the Washington Post and received a 2020 fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts. Her debut, The Book of M, won the 2019 Newcomb Institute for Literary Arts Award for debut speculative fiction and was chosen as a Best Book of the Year by Amazon. Elle, which is spelled E-L-L-E. We're not exactly sure how to pronounce that, so hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly. Refinery 29 and The Verge, as well as a Best Book of the Summer by The Today Show and NPR's On Point. Welcome, Peng.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. We're very excited to have you here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should just start with the most obvious thing, Kat. Your new book, All This and More, is kind of a choose your own adventure type situation. Why did you want to write a choose your own adventure kind of book?
Okay, so my favorite thing about writing is structure, like as a writer and a reader. So if I'm, like looking for a new book to read or browsing the bookstores, anything that says that it's got a weird structure in the reviews, or like I can tell from the back of the book summary, that's my jam. That's what I want. And so I had been really, really wanting to write a book with multiple paths in it for years, probably like 10 years. But I wasn't able to, until I came up with the premise for All This and More, I wasn't able to figure out how to make it work, because it felt like if you're going to write a book with multiple paths for adults, it feels like there has to be more of a reason to be doing that. You can't just do it just for fun. There has to be a thematic reason to do it too. And so that was the hardest part, was coming up with the premise that made it worth it.
So at what point did you suddenly go, I can solve everything with quantum mechanics?
Yes, I'm an expert in quantum mechanics. It was more, this is going to sound like a kind of a funny roundabout answer, but it was actually the pandemic that helped me figure it out, because, everything went from the crazy rat race, right, 100 miles an hour all the time, 24/7, to just a standstill for a little bit. And we were all sitting in our houses just waiting to see what was going to happen. And so I was also climbing the walls, like everyone else, and just feeling really unmoored and unsure and like bored and terrified at the same time. And there was something about being trapped in that way that made me, I don't know, it just made it feel more urgent that I wanted to write this multiple path thing at that point, because I was like, I have zero paths right now. There's nothing. And it was something, I don't know, it was something about just not having any choices at that moment that made me think, well, what if I could have, what if there was some kind of a thing like a game or a reality where that was the whole point of it, that you had infinite choices, and that was the purpose of the story, was that you had to figure out what was the best one or what was the right one. And so that's kind of how the idea for a game show that uses something like quantum mechanics to bubble off a section of reality, and then the main character gets to play in that world.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Trying and changing everything that she wants over and over and over, tweaking and making mistakes and figuring things out like that.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you track what was going on when you were writing the book?
And going some wonderfully wild places with that.
Yeah. Okay, if you believe it, I did not have an outline until like really late in the game
Ah,
because I knew that eventually I was going to turn this into my editor and then the production editor was going to lose her mind when she was having to proof it, you know? And so I thought, you know what, I've got to build a map. Otherwise, everyone at at William Morrow was going to kill me. And so at that point, I think I was halfway through the second half. So I was like 2/3 to 3/4 done. And then I finally sat down and I drew like a flow chart basically that they could follow that would help them. But yeah, for some reason, I wrote almost all of this book without a map. It just kind of lived in my head like yeah, it was wild. I mean, I don't think I meant to do it on purpose, but when I think back to it, I think it was a very
That's
good
awesome.
test of how well the story was going to work. Because what I really didn't want to do with the story was make it so that choices felt random. You know, I wanted everything to make sense and be meaningful to the main character's life, Marsh. And so it sort of felt like if I have to write it all down to see how you get, between stuff, then it's like not, I could be forcing stuff that shouldn't be forced. So I just thought if I can keep it all in my head, then that means it must make sense, right? It must all feel like part of the same story, even though they are different paths.
Well, I like the organic quality of that. And I think that is somehow fitting for this narrative. That you just have to kind of let it grow. And then once you had it mostly grown, made sense out of it. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's worth it now. It was at the time I was drafting it.
Oh, there's always that moment in a draft where you're just like, what am I doing? How did I get here? Where it's, yeah.
Yeah. Although in this case, it was several times because there were several paths.
that's funny. That's funny. Well, I mean, I think that's more realistic too, right? Because people's lives are organic, right? They're not like, I don't know, processed. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
there's no one sitting there saying, okay, now it's time to make this decision. I mean, I guess there's a few of those, like, okay, I've graduated high school now. What?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But mostly, after that point, it's just kind of like whatever happens to you, right? And you kind of make your decisions as you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, totally agree.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I like how you said that you wanted the choices to matter. I've studied a little bit of game theory for my job. I'm not like a game designer or anything, but it overlaps with what I do. And one of the things they always say is make sure that your choices matter. It's not just some nonsense choice that's not going to change anything, because then the person who's going through your whatever it is becomes engaged with it and owns that choice. So I really like that you mentioned that. That's interesting. Did you have to build the character out first to understand what the choices would be?
So Marsh is sort of she's interesting. She did go through kind of a evolution because she did start out as a little bit of a kind of a meek, play it safe, wallflower type woman. And, because what I wanted was I needed a main character who really had a lot of regrets in life and who felt that she had made a lot of mistakes and missed out on a lot of stuff, because that way, when she enters the bubble and she gets to try all these things that she thinks she should have done if only she had been braver when she was younger, and now she can do it. And so she always was that way. But there was a period of time where the whole thing was in second person.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and which was very fun to write, apparently less fun to read, according to my editor. But so at that point, I didn't know if you, the reader, were going to be Marsh, or if you, the reader, were going to be a viewer of the show watching Marsh, like a fan. And so that it made it complicated in the earlier drafts because I was more distanced from her. And then it was only when we got rid of the you, second person, that I really got to say, who exactly is Marsh? I got to get really specific about her regrets. And so that's where a lot of the other details of her life started to come in, and her daughter, especially because she has a big fear that her daughter, who's a teenager, is starting to kind of pull away from her and is seeing her mother not just as a mother, but as a woman, and seeing her as a woman who's not very fulfilled and who, didn't reach her potential. And Marsh doesn't want her to learn those lessons. And so all that kind of psychological character stuff started to come out much more really late in the game.
I think one of the things that I really liked about it was the philosophy of light it on fire, which Marsh is kind of going, well, this is something I haven't done throughout my life. I needed to light more things, more marshmallows on fire. But then she gets to the point where things are never perfect. And it seems like lighting stuff on fire is sort of the opposite of perfect, and that she has forgotten, and she's sort of like absolutely not lighting things on fire when she gets down into this rut of well, no, this house has a hallway that's too wide. Ren's hair is too short in this version.
Yeah, and I think that would be, that's the really big danger, is if somebody offered you this bubble that you could go in and make changes changes to your past that would then affect your present life, and so you could make your life better. I think it would be really natural to start like Marsh, and you would say to yourself, okay, I'm just going to change like one thing, or I'm going to change the little things, or something like that, and you would enter with a clear vision, but it would get really addictive, and it would be really hard to know when to stop,
Yeah.
And or also, I think just as hard, because it would be easy to just keep endlessly tweaking the little things, which doesn't seem that important. I mean, it would be, it would take up your whole life, but they'd just be little things. But I think even worse is you would probably go in with a very clear line that you don't think you're going to cross, something that you're not going to change because it's really important to who you are, or it would change things for other people that you love. And then it would be really hard to hold that line.
That's a good point. Yeah, and I think that having it be that seductive, and then to couple that with reality television, which has its own kind of seductive, weird pull, is just, I think that works really nicely together.
It was really fun to actually write the show because I put in all of the commenters and the viewers, that occasionally break in and say they, make comments on the choice that Marsh just made, or whether they think she's done better or worse. And some of them are really supportive, and then also some of them are trolls, and they're pretty mean or disruptive. And that was a really fun way to look at her, because I got to look at her from the outside too, not just from within her own head.
That was actually a pretty interesting aspect. I feel like the one troll, the main troll person, actually had a little bit of a character arc. Because I'm trying to find their name in here.
Yeah, it's not a mackerel.
That's it, not a mackerel.
Yeah, because the other girl says holy mackerel all the time, and so his troll name is not a mackerel.
Yes. Because at the beginning, not a mackerel is a troll, right? But towards the end, not a mackerel is going, oh my God, there's something wrong. We need to fix this, and everyone else is just like watching the show. You know what I mean? I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. It was fun to write Not a Mackerel. In my head, he's a teenage boy, so I'm going to say he. It was really fun to write him because I did kind of wonder where he was going, because I didn't want him to just be an annoying troll just to be an annoying troll. But it really started to work out because I thought that kind of a person might be the first one to notice that something's weird, because he's already looking for stuff that's wrong or bad about Marsh, and everyone else is just this rabid fan. And so when things do start to get weird, he is the one that's like, wait a minute. Did no one else see that? Did none of you see that?
That's funny. I love that. When Marsh starts making the choices and not being content with anything, for me, her character really took a turn. She really took a dark turn, I feel like, you know what I mean? Because someone who's so, like, at one point she's like changing the color of the flowers because she doesn't like them, right? In the length of the grass or something like that. It was like, ooh, I feel like we've gone full Karen mode here. You know what I mean? Like, nothing is good enough.
Yeah. But it was it felt really true at the same time. The deeper I got into the story, because at first I was also kind of nervous about making changes as I wrote, because I was early in the draft. I didn't know if this was going to work out or if it was just going to be, a flaming mess that I wouldn't be able to make a story out of. And then I did get bolder too as the writer, as the story kept going too. And so it just kind of, together, Marsh and I got darker.
Nice.
How did it feel for you to change the other characters. Like, because I felt like one of the things that I pulled out from all this and part of this darker turn that I started noticing more is like, we'll just take Ren, for example. And so the listeners know Ren is like her old boyfriend who kind of comes back into her life, right? And then becomes a main character within the book. So that's not a spoiler or anything. But Ren just changes so much to the point where they're completely a different person from one episode to the next. I mean, did you feel like that was morally wrong or like?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, well, yes, I definitely feel like that's morally wrong, but I think it would also be kind of impossible not to change other people's lives as you were changing your own, because that's the whole thing, right? We are all connected to the people that we care about. And so Marsh tries to rationalize it by saying, especially in the case of her daughter, she's really conscious of, like, whenever she makes a choice, she's trying to make it with keeping in mind that it has to make things better for her daughter Harper too. It can't make things better for Marsh, but worse for Harper. And so that's how she tells herself, it's okay that I'm doing this, or it's okay as long as I try very hard. And that does kind of happen in real life too, because if you're, for example, in a relationship with someone and you get a new job that's way better, but it's in the next state, that is going to affect their life, because either they're going to move with you, or you're not going to get to take the job, or they're going to have to quit, or you're long distance, and so it's not necessarily always evil to make a choice in life that affects someone else's life, but it's kind of, this is what I love about speculative fiction, because you could read a story that's set in a very realistic setting about making choices that affect other people's lives. But then if you do it in the bubble, in a speculative setting where it's like an extremely direct, on the nose example of how you can make a choice and affect someone's life. Right. In the bubble, you are literally changing their reality. It's just really, you really get to explore it like in a really, really deep way, because it's so enhanced or emphasized.
I would like to know what reality TV you consume.
I had that question too.
So I didn't watch a ton of it actually before I got interested in this as the premise, because I didn't, at that point, I just didn't have a TV because I was traveling a lot. And then when I started writing the book, I thought I better watch some of this. And so the show that I always come back to, it's the first reality TV that I watched ever, and it's the one where the two people get married, but the first time that they see each other is at the altar the first episode, and they have to say yes.
God.
Yeah, it's so wild. I mean, can you imagine? And so the season is the first episode, you get to meet each of them separately, and then the final moment of the first episode is they walk up to the altar basically blindfolded, I think, and then they take the blindfolds off, see each other, and they say yes, and that's the end. And then the second through 10th episodes are them learning to live together and trying to really give marriage an earnest try, because their whole thing is they're desperate for a life partner, but they haven't been able to find one, and so they're putting their lives in the hands of experts who've chosen someone that's supposed to be really compatible with them. And so the point is, can you learn to love somebody, and can you put in the work to make this marriage real, even if you didn't choose them yourself? So yeah, fascinating. So wild.
Wow. As someone who's been married for 15 years, it can be hard to be married to somebody you like. You know what I mean? I can't even. Does it ever work out?
Right.
Does it ever work out?
Actually, it does. And so it's now, I don't know, it's probably in its 10th season or something. And so I think with a lot of these shows, it becomes inevitable that the people who start auditioning for them, because they know the gimmick, they're going in with, they're too jaded, And so it kind of seems like in the later season, it works out less and less. But I think the very first couple of the first season, they're still together. They have a couple kids. And it's kind of wild, because in the first episode, she is so surprised and just kind of upset because the guy is totally not what she was expecting. And she's just so
Huh.
Yeah, just so upset that she actually cries right there. And then she says yes, and she runs out. And it just seems like there's no, I mean, you just think there's no way. And they are still happily married with kids, and everything's great. They really,
Wow.
it
Oh,
really worked
God.
out.
I
Yeah.
don't even know what to say about that. The only thing we watch are the cooking shows, and specifically around Halloween when they're making like all the cakes that look like monsters and stuff, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I need to watch more reality TV. I'm open to recommendations.
Oh,
Do you know the cooking show where they give them a really fancy, beautifully decorated cake, and then they have to replicate it, and it's people who aren't very good at cooking? There's a name.
Yeah.
It's like the hostess is Yvette Brown, I think. But it's hysterical because the cakes are just such disasters
Ah.
that it's wonderful.
that would be me 100% right there. That would be me. Oh, that's so funny.
You should watch that and then watch the other one is called Is It Cake? And in that one, it's people who are very good at baking cakes, and they give them an object and they have to replicate the
It's
object
amazing.
in cake and fool the judges.
Yeah, no, we watched that one.
Yes, same.
Yeah. Most of my favorites involve cake. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah.
No, that's a good one. It's actually it's nice and short, and you're always amazed. You're always like, oh my god, how'd they do that? That's amazing.
Yeah.
People are so skilled.
How? Yeah. Yeah.
Peng, I'm curious, like I would call it like a very Philip K. Dickian kind of book, kind of like what is reality now and what's not reality, you know? I'm wondering who your science fiction and fantasy influences are.
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, well, I think, yeah, we can say Philip K. Dick for this one. I loved Ubik a lot. It was
Oh,
just,
yeah.
yeah. But I mean, my, favorite of favorites is Ursula K. Le Guin. Always will be.
Yeah.
And I love Margaret Atwood. I love Jeff Vandermeer and Kay Jemison.
Yeah.
Rebecca Roanhorse, Fonda Lee.
That's awesome. What do you look for in actually maybe I should say speculative fiction work these days?
What do I look for? I love if it's got a weird structure of some kind, which is what really got me into N.K. Jemison's work, because she wrote that. Is it called the Broken Earth trilogy?
Yeah,
I can't remember the
so
name.
good.
Okay. But the whole thing is in second person, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really unique. There are not a lot of whole novels that are in second person, let alone trilogies that are in second.
Yeah.
So like that, something like that, really, if you're going to be, like a little bit experimental with the structure, I really love that. Or a lot of times it's like any book that you can say halfway through the plot summary, but then at the same time, under the surface, something is going on. Like that kind of something. There's kind of an ostensibly normal-ish reality that we're looking at, but there's something that something else that's going on that's going to be revealed halfway through, but you can feel it coming, like that.
That's interesting. Have you ever read Todd A. Thompson's Jackdaw?
No, but I'm going to put it on my list now. Does it do that?
Well,
sort of. It's so I've read almost all of Todd A. stuff, and I'm very familiar with his work. And I think the most interesting thing is he actually took his real life and then made it into a horror story. And
oh,
like he's the main character, like really like him, and the things about him.
Oh,
and he, he's, it's kind of like a horror story, but it's also like very like psychological, and then it gets very meta, as it goes through.
Yeah. Is that called like auto fiction? Is that
know.
what that's called?
I don't know.
It's very weird and interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it sounds fascinating.
Yeah. No, I noticed a lot of meta in your book as well. A lot of meta things going on. And I don't know if it's just what I'm reading lately, but I feel like there's a lot of meta stuff happening in speculative fiction right now. Like, do either of you feel like that's a trend right now? Is that something that's going on? Or
I think
I'm just curious what you all think about that.
I think it is a trend. I mean, I think we're seeing more and more of it in fiction. Oh God, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think like everything, everywhere, all at once. I think the Spider-Man and the multiverse, and I think there is more kind of acknowledgement of sort of that there are multiple reality stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Although, C.S. Lewis was doing it way back when in the Narnia. Remember the Wood Between the Worlds, with all the different entrances to the different worlds.
Some, like portal fantasy type stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I agree that it's definitely like a lot more prevalent now. I'm trying to figure out why. I don't know if it's because I'm sort of wondering if now, because speculative fiction has become so much more popular, like with just the mainstream reader too, that I wonder if it's like, and also just we've become such voracious consumers of story, because now everybody's got like Netflix and Hulu, and there's like 1 million books published every month. And so we consume story at a rate that I don't think we used to. And so I think that we're all really sophisticated at story now. And so maybe this kind of like meta stuff, or kind of self-conscious stuff, or multiverse stuff, where the certain realities are aware of each other in some way, it's like in conversation with that aspect of the way that readers and viewers are understanding story now. And like there's like more of a relationship between the storyteller and the story consumer than in a way that it didn't used to be before.
Right.
I kind of wonder, and this is more specifically about the meta part, but I feel like, at least in the United States, we're really like thinking about ourselves a lot and kind of trying to understand what our culture is going through right now too. So I'm kind of wondering if that's part of it as well.
Oh, totally. Because, I think, lately, over the past couple of years, I think there were a lot of moments of this has to be the alternate timeline, right? Like this isn't the real one, is it?
Right. Oh, and which one is the real timeline?
Well, it's like all the TikTok videos that you see of like animals moving in synchronicity or something, and they're like a glitch in the matrix.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so funny.
Well, I'm curious, Punk, because all of your books are so different. Like, what are you working on right now?
Ooh, this is the first time I've ever had to talk about. Yeah, this is exciting. Yeah. This is the weird thing about books, right? That when you have one coming out, you're usually partway into the next one.
Right,
and so you're it's like so weird to have these two worlds, right next to each other, and they're so different. So anyway, I'm probably halfway through the first draft of this, and it's very dark and very serious, and it's probably the least speculative in that it doesn't have like big science fictional or fantasy pieces in it the way that the Book of M and the Cartographers and All This and More do.
Right.
But it's still like very weird. And it's about body doubles, basically. It's about body doubles that have been secretly hired to impersonate a famous, powerful person, and how, as they become more entwined with each other, everything just kind of starts to unravel.
Oh, that sounds fabulous.
It's a lot of fun right now. I'm having fun. I'm making a mess. I'm in the first draft. But.
Well, I think that's part of the joy of writing also is, right, you do this big messy thing, and then you get to make it look nice.
Oh, that's my cat. Sorry. Just came in and sang.
That's I think that's good.
But
no worries.
yeah,
I have 4. We're used to them.
Oh yeah, well I only have the one, but he talks enough for 4 for sure. Yeah, he really does.
That's awesome. So you obviously travel a lot, and I could tell from your books, right? And All This and More, right? Marsh moves around place to place, and you've another book called Cartographers, right?
Uh-huh.
Do you just travel for fun? Is this just like your life has just happened this way? And what are some of your favorite places to go?
I think it's a little bit of both. Some of it was stuff that happened to me, like study abroad, or, you get a job and the job has business travel, or there's relocation or something like that. But I just really love it. It's, I just love going somewhere new, seeing, like different landscapes, different cities, different people, like trying the different food. I'm obsessed with food. And so I don't know, it's just, it's not like I go specifically to be inspired. I go because I love it and I want to see that place. But, inevitably it does kind of inspire you in some way, even if you don't end up putting it directly in the book. But like, for example, I did put a big chunk of one of the episodes in All This and More. Marsh gets to go to Iceland and does a lot of wild things in Iceland. And then also all the volcanoes in Iceland may or may not decide to erupt in that episode because, things are getting more and more complicated at that point in her season. So, and I did go to Iceland the year prior to writing that. And I didn't go because I thought I was going to put it in the book. But once I got there, I was just like, this place is so incredible. It's so weird. It's such a weird place. And I mean that in a good way, but it's so weird. The landscape is just so alien looking. You go to the beaches and there's this one beach there where the sand is pure black.
Ooh.
Everything. So you just look down the beach and it's just like obsidian. And then the waves are, blue and white because it's cold, cold ocean water. And it's like the strangest thing I've ever seen. It sort of looked like what I thought after death might look like, but not in a scary way, kind of in a really nice way. I thought when I die, I bet this is where you wake up. This is what it looks like.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Iceland. One of my friends had mentioned going to Iceland and it being really a cool place to go visit and stuff. And I read it in your book and I immediately told my wife, I'm like, we should probably go to Iceland. That would be really cool. I like started looking up the flights and everything. Like,
yeah.
I'm also curious about, you mentioned that you lived in Beijing. Were you an adult when you were in Beijing?
Yeah, young adult. I was in my really early 20s, which is also where I got my cat that just came in and screamed at all of us and left.
Really?
He was born in Beijing. Yeah, he was a little scruffy street buffing thing. I found him at like 3 or 4 weeks old, and we've been together ever since. He's turning 16 this year.
Wow. What is it?
Yeah. His name is Pinkin.
No, that's
his full name. His name is actually Pinkin Lunchbox 5, but he just goes by Pinkin.
I love that name.
That's amazing.
Can I ask why Lunchbox?
Yep. I don't. At this point, I don't remember. I think it was because it was because when I found him, he was starving, basically, and so he would just steal food right off the counter, out of the stove. He tried to jump into the pan once while I was cooking because he didn't know what a pan was. I mean, that was bad. That was very scary. He was fine. He didn't get hurt, but
scary.
Whew, yeah, I know, kittens, right? They're just they're like, what is gravity? What is heat? What is danger? What is danger? Nope.
They have no sense of it. Yeah. You watch them blithely do the stupidest things.
Most of our cats are, from the shelter, but we have had one since he was a kitten. And after he got a little bit older, I told my wife, I'm like, we're done with kittens. I just can't do this. They're too crazy.
He's my first cat and also first kitten. And so I did not know what I was getting into when I got him.
God, yeah.
And I think that was good though, because who knows if I would have done it. And now it's been so long that I have forgotten exactly how unmanageable he was. I just remember most of the cute stuff. So, I may someday get a kitten again and make the same fatal mistake.
I adopted 2 last year and they are 9 months now, but I got 2 of them because they do entertain each other.
Oh,
yes,
that makes sense.
They do. Right now, we're trying to keep the 3 from beating up on the 4th one. He's only been here for a couple months, and they're still like in territory mode. Like, hey, you stranger, we're gonna beat you up for fun. You know what I mean? My wife and I have to go down there and break it up about once a week. Poor guy. But he's a huge cat, and we keep telling him. I know he doesn't understand me, but I tell him anyway. Pippi, if you just smacked them one time, they would leave you alone. He just looks at me. All these days. Would you mind talking about Beijing a little bit? Like, I personally am just very fascinated with China and Chinese history and stuff like that. What was it like, living there compared to the U.S.?
It was amazing. And it was so different because I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, which, as you can imagine, is just
I've been there.
Very different from Beijing, like in a lot of ways. Oh, you have been there. I'm sorry. No, I'm kidding. It's like a good place to raise a family, because you've got a yard and there's great Mexican food. So I went from Phoenix to Beijing when I moved there to study abroad. And so that was just, the change it was like a change in every way. It was a change geographically. It was a change in the way that the city looked. It was a change in language. It was a change in food. And it was, I think it was kind of great to do it that way, because I don't know, it was just wonderful that everything was different and kind of nothing was familiar. Even, I can't really say that because our family is, my mom was born in Taiwan and she came over to the US when she was 5. So like I had grown up in like American Chinese culture, but I had never been back over there before. That was the first time that I went back to Asia. I don't know, it was just so, the scale of everything, and Beijing is even bigger now, but even at that point in, I don't know, what was that, like 2006, 2005 or something? It was just the biggest city I had ever been to. And it was like everything was so tall and the ring roads just went on. And like, it was just, and I was alone because I went for a study abroad program, which was, I think, a couple weeks. And then I just decided to stay because I wanted to. And so the school just left me because it was university. So you're an adult, you can do what you want. So they just left and I stayed for about a year, and it was just, I don't know, it was wonderful. It was so great to be out of your element and then to find your element again in that place.
All right. So a couple questions here. We're getting close to the end, but I'm really curious. Would you do something like Marsh? Like, would you go onto the TV show like Marsh? And if you did, like, what decisions would you make?
Oh, that's, yeah. So I think if somebody offered me that, I would not go, because I think it would be like, having written this book and gone down that rabbit hole with Marsh, I think it would be so impossible to stop. And also, that's the thing about perfection, right? Is because none of us can have perfection right now because it's impossible for things to be perfect. It seems like a great idea, but I think if you actually got to perfect, it would be pretty horrible and pretty boring, Yeah. And so if somebody gave me the chance to make everything perfect, I think I would end up destroying my life on accident, seeking the thing that I thought I wanted so bad. So I think I would try very hard not to let myself go. But if I went, I would make a rule for myself that was, you can only change maybe one thing and you have to stop at one. Right. And I don't know what the one thing would be. And I don't even know if I could keep that rule. Like, probably not. As soon as you made the first choice, you would totally lose control and all willpower. But I would go in and I would say, you can only change one thing.
I feel like this is a good place to talk about the endings, but I also don't want to tell everybody the endings to your book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
Yeah. I feel like we can tell them that there are 3 endings.
Yes.
That you get to choose from.
Yes.
And yeah, we're just gonna have to leave it with that. But you can. There are 3 endings you get to pick from. You can find your way to all of them. And I'm always so curious. I love, because the advanced review copies went out a couple months ago, and so now people have started to finish the thing. And I just love hearing which ending somebody chose or which one like was their favorite. It's very fun.
And so everybody knows we discussed our endings before the podcast started, and Kat and I cheated and read all 3.
Yes. No, it's not cheating. We enjoyed the book to its fullest by reading all 3. That's what happened.
Yeah. I like that framing. Okay, so we have one question that we ask everybody who comes on the show. What is bringing you hope right now?
Oh, that's a great question. What is bringing me hope right now? And now I'm just going to pause and really awkwardly and think of, let me see. Well, one thing, so I recently, kind of bringing it back to travel, I really recently went on one of my first international trips for a while, because I was I wasn't flying in the beginning of the pandemic, and then I'd been so busy with work and stuff, but I went to Turkey and Georgia and Azerbaijan, and it was just so wonderful to be somewhere new again. I had been to Turkey before, but I'd never been to Georgia and I'd never been to Azerbaijan. And they were really different than I thought they were going to be. And like, that is also amazing. I love it when I show up to a place and it's not what I was expecting. And yeah, it was just, I don't know, kind of like feel myself come alive again. So that was really, really wonderful.
That's awesome. I gotta say, I'm jealous of your travel. And Kat just came back from, I shouldn't say just came back, but last year was in Spain, Barcelona, right, Kat?
In Spain. I was north of Spain.
North of Spain. Oh, okay. Okay, north of Spain.
In a 10th century castle.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was fabulous.
I need to get back traveling again.
Yeah. Got to go to Iceland.
I know, right? I know.
If you go to Iceland, you have to email me and I'll tell you the name of the beach. I mean, you'll probably see the name of the beach because it's very famous, but just let me know because I'll send it over and you can. Okay. It's very easy to get there.
Awesome. That's on my list of places to go. So.
Yeah, mine too. Mine too.
Yeah. Well, it's gorgeous.
What new work do you have coming out that you would like to promote?
Oh, well, I mean, it's going to be this book, All This and More.
And where can people find you online?
So I have a website, which is pengshepherd.com, and I am sort of on X and sort of on Threads, but mostly Instagram. And my name at all those places is just at Peng Shepherd.
Okay, awesome. And Peng Shepherd, just so everyone knows, is, because I keep mispronouncing it, is PENG SHEPERD.
It's SHEPHERD.
I'm sorry. Jeez. Okay, so I've also been misspelling your name.
Oh, it's okay. No, it's okay. There's like a million ways to spell shepherd, and mine is like the least popular, I guess.
I get that totally. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. A great time chatting with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you.
And that was our interview with Peng Shepherd. Before we keep going, if you like what we're doing, please, please, please share us with your friends on Facebook or X or Blue Sky or Mastodon. I don't know. Have I named them all now? I'm not sure.
There's thousands now.
Yeah. If you're on whatever you're on, please share us there. That is honestly the most helpful thing that you could do. You could also rate or review us if you want to. We're actually starting to get a decent amount of reviews. I think, 5
Right.
the last time I checked. So, I mean, we're a small niche podcast. I'm pretty proud about that. So,
Well, that's letting viewers, listeners, I guess you're not really viewers, but letting them know you could be review number 6.
that's right. That's right. So go out there and do that.
That's it.
And if you love what we're doing and really want to support us on the monetary level, there's 2 ways you can do that. You can go to Ko-fi, that's Kofi, and just search us there, and you can give us a one-time donation there. I think you can subscribe there too and give us a monthly donation. But mostly I put stuff on our Patreon, and our Patreon is patreon.com/ifthisgoeson. So you can find us there as well. And that's kind of when I update Patreon and we do patron picks and things like that. That's where you'll get all the stuff. And Kat has like discounts to her classes there, and there's some essays there. There's some bonus episodes that have never been released on this RSS feed there that you can find, and a bunch of random stuff that we've built up over the 4.5 years we've been doing this. So go and check that out. So first, how did you feel about the Peng interview?
I thought that was great. It was such a smart book, and also not just a smart book, but a very enjoyable book.
Yeah. At first, I wasn't sure what to expect, I really enjoyed the choose your adventure aspect of it.
Yeah.
And she kind of said something like this during the interview. You don't really expect something like that of, how could I say, like an adult book, right? You know what I mean?
Right. No, and I've seen short stories. I've seen people riff on the choose your own adventure with short stories a few times, but not in a novel.
That's interesting. And like I said, the choices were so hard to make. I seriously, there was times where I was like, I have no idea which way to go on this.
Right.
So I love that. But so what are you reading these days?
What am I reading right now? Well, 2 things. One is I am beta reading for a friend of mine. So the book I'm reading is called The Diplomacy of the Knife. And if anyone read C.M. Kaplan's The Fall Is All There Is, which is a terrific book, I get to read the second
Ooh.
book. Ha 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 ha. And the other book that I have just been binging the series, I'm on book 6, the last one now, and slowing down because it's the last one, is this crazy series called Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman, which if you play video games, this is just, it's a hoot.
Huh.
And if you liked, it actually had some kind of weird overlap with Peng's book in that it has a reality television aspect to it. But it is a funny, funny book, and I highly recommend it.
Oh my gosh. I need to check that one out. That sounds super cool.
It is. It's hysterical, and it's got the hero. The hero is Carl, but then his sidekick is this Persian cat named Princess Donut, who happened to kind of go into the dungeon with him and achieve sentience. And Donut is just the best character ever.
I love that. That is so hilarious. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to check that. I'm almost certain that someone else brought that book up on this podcast. I am almost certain of it.
It's an indie book. Like you can get it on Kindle Unlimited, and I think it's one of those indie books that became kind of a phenomenon. Like what is it?
Yeah.
Legends and Lattes. Because you read it and you're just like, oh my God, this is so good. Like I texted like a couple people and I was like, you have to read this. It's so good. Which, because it's so much fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'll definitely check that out.
What are you reading?
So let me see. What am I reading? I always have to think about it. Let's see. Okay, I've got a good mix going on here. First, I want to bring this one up first. I'm reading Women of Horror and Speculative Fiction in Their Own Words: Conversations with Authors and Editors.
Oh, nice.
And guess who's interviewed in that book?
I'd forgotten. I haven't seen that yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's out, or at least it's coming out soon. I'm not sure if it's out or coming out soon. Sometimes I forget. I do have to make an editorial comment though, that I love some of your answers. Some of the questions are very academic, right?
Yes.
And the one question was, I don't know, it's like 4 sentences long or something. And your answer is like, nope.
I don't remember which one that was, but
I laughed so hard when I read that. I was like,
yeah.
Okay. Oh, that was so funny.
Now I have to go back and see what I wrote.
So funny.
God. But that can't be the only thing you're reading. What else are you reading?
No, it's not. What else am I reading? I'm reading Countess by Susan Palumbo.
Oh, I have not read that yet.
I literally just started that earlier today.
Awesome.
It's a novella. It's a space opera. And listeners should know, because we interviewed Susan on here, gosh, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. And she's mostly a horror writer, but it's kind of like, it's space opera, but she says it's on the dark side.
Right.
So it's dark space opera,
nice.
I guess.
Nice.
Yeah. So far, so good. I'm like 20 pages into it, so I'm not very far.
Very cool.
What else am I reading? I'm also reading Persepolis Rising, the 7th?
Oh, yeah. I liked that a lot.
7th book in the Expanse series. Yeah, it's like, so
Nice.
I watched the show before I read the book, right? So
oh, yeah.
I knew more or less, what was going to happen in the first 6, but now I haven't the slightest idea.
Yeah, new territory, baby. I like that.
And I will say the Expanse books are good enough that, in my opinion, if you've seen the show, you could read them, and it's legit. It's good.
I think if you've seen this series and you liked it, you would like the book even more because you get more insight into some of the characters, and there's always more happening in a book than there is in a dramatic version.
Definitely. And I love those characters so much, especially Naomi and oh my god, well, Bobby too. But what's the guy's name? Not the lead guy. The crazy one.
Right.
He's like a sociopath, he's the mechanic.
I don't know which one.
Oh, it's killing me.
Oh God. Oh, I don't remember his name. I'm not good with names.
I'm terrible with names too. That guy, he's just
guy.
He's like scary as hell, but he's also awesome. Like I don't know, like he's kind of like a sociopathic teddy bear. Like I don't know how else to say it.
Right. I think there's something compelling about sort of that sort of character when they're on your side or on the side that you kind of hope for,
Yeah.
right?
That's interesting. I never thought about that, I guess. I honestly can't think of many books
Yeah.
where that's the case.
Laurel K. Hamilton has one of in the Anita Blake books has one of the characters is a sociopath, but he's enthralled to Anita. This may be more than you wanted to know about Laurel K. Hamilton mythos, but I'm happy to expand on it. But
Well, no, feel free to expand. I'm not familiar with her work at all.
well, she writes vampire books, and they're kind of smutty.
Uh,
And I'm sure she would agree that they're kind of smutty. And it's interesting because like they start out reasonably tame, and then there's a point where she sort of takes a hard turn into smut, and then kind of comes back from that. But they're one of my comfort reads. Actually, there's a bajillion of them, and whenever a new one comes out, I reread a bunch of them, and I just love
okay.
her.
Awesome. Interesting. I do love super long series just for that reason of like,
Yeah,
I just want to read something that's the same but different because I don't
yeah,
like to reread very much, but I still want like that same vibe. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. No, I reread a lot, but usually it's because like a new book in the series has come out, and so I'll go back and reread.
By the way, and then we'll wrap up. But have you read Cadwell's new book yet?
No, I'm looking forward to it though. I
Yes.
just got it. I was
Yes.
down at the bookstore and got that. So yes.
Yes.
Have you?
Not yet. I'm in the exact same situation as you. It's sitting right here, right next to me, but I haven't found the time to read it yet.
There are so many good books and so little time.
Right?
Sadly.
Right? So true. Too true.
Yeah.
Anyway, the only other thing I'm reading is I'm reading a back issue of Dreamforge, which I'm trying to catch up on as well. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, a shout out to Scott and Jane. Hey guys. And yeah, that's it. So you ready to wrap up?
I think so.
Alrighty. Okay. So that was our episode. We are bringing you hope one episode at a time. If This Goes On, Don't Panic is edited by Alan Bailey and produced by Ken Schrader. Our theme music is by Father Flamethrower, additional music is by Christopher Snydrowski, and outro music by Sable Aradia. Intro by Dave Robinson. Special thanks to our guest, Peng Shepherd. Thanks for supporting us, and we'll see you again soon.